Looking for that perfect game for your gaming console? Video Game Corner is the largest independently owned video gaming store in North Mississippi, located at 1519 Highway 72 in Corinth. We are an authorized limited-run retail store and have a massive collection of retro games and game systems, and also plush toys and collectibles. We also pay top dollar for your used video games. Check them out Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Visit Video Game Corner in Corinth.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special version of the pitch meeting. Today we are talking about, today we're kind of piggybacking off of the video I made a while back, and one of the fucking comments that was made on it actually still makes me laugh because they were saying I am like, I'm basically like the frickin' Critics United for talking about the fanfiction, but I don't think so. And I've got two people here who know it. Our buddy Anderfell,
Hello, everybody.
and our good friend Crimson Wearsloth.
Hello, everyone. And to answer your question, Al is not like the cunt union.
Well, thank God that I've got that intro, or else that would have demonetized us.
Sorry.
No, anyway, Ander, do you think I'm like the Critics United?
No. Considering the fact I tried to read it, and unfortunately I just couldn't. I can read a story if it has a bad premise to start off with. I'm fine with that. I can try and read it, give it the benefit of the doubt, but what I can't get behind is literally not only knowing like the bare minimum. And I mean, we know Mars, we know they attack Earth. That's it. That's literally all he did. And while I don't have a problem with the your name or you're a reader fic, this is not the type of one for that, unfortunately. So I'm sorry to say it, but I just couldn't get behind it. I really couldn't. I tried, but I couldn't.
My brain hurt trying to read it.
Now, the premise is not that bad. In reality, it's got a good idea.
In all honesty, this is the only story that actually makes me root for the Martians to take over Earth.
Now, you're probably asking, what are we talking about? What the hell are we talking about? Like, what? Somebody start making sense of it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about, of course, what would happen if War of the Worlds and Code Geass crossed over. And honestly, it's not that bad of an idea.
And as I said, this would be the only story that would actually make me support the Martians taking over Earth.
Yes, we know this. But again, and before we get any further, let's actually get into what exactly is War of the Worlds. For those of you who don't know what War of the Worlds is, shame on you, number one. It is a classic.
How the fuck have you been around in pop culture?
World of the Worlds is a book written in the late 1800s by a man named H.G. Wells, who is known as the father of modern science fiction, but it would not be that way without the mother of science fiction, Mary Shelley and her creation of Frankenstein. What World of Worlds is takes place when the British Empire is at the height of its power. But Martians invade, causing a war between the Martians and humans. What he wrote it as is an allegory of the downfall of all humankind because of external forces. But I also wrote about the fact that no matter how technologically advanced you are, no matter how better weapons you have, you can always fall to something you considered insignificant. And for that, it was the cold, most humble of all of God's creations, that did in the Martians.
Mm-hmm. And that is kind of the big thing about it is, and this is something I personally have always loved about War of the Worlds, is that this is me reading into it, of course, but I've always seen War of the Worlds as a setup for, oh my goodness, of basically saying that no matter that you may be a powerful nation, but you will fall. Like, there's always bigger external forces out there that will be more powerful than you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, the story that is presented here is kind of a cool idea, and some things just did not work out, especially the bio thing of saying, oh yeah, it's like, here's this, all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's a good idea, but you're throwing everything in the kitchen sink. Like, the guy was throwing not only, of course, the 1953 War of the Worlds, Goliath, and literally everything in between, but he was just basically throwing anything that could stick. Now, don't get me wrong, I like a lot the War of the Worlds universe that has been created, but you gotta take a step back. Don't just throw everything you got. Like, either choose a War of the Worlds that you like, or just evolve it. That's what I was gonna say. Evolve it.
Hell, even use the early 2000 movie if you want. Just stop throwing everything in the room.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is where we basically have to say, how could this work? What can we do that could make it work? Or how can it work is the question, is the question that we ask, and we will try and answer. So, gentlemen, who wants to go first?
Can the guy who has least knowledge of both series go first?
I mean, again, it's basically War of the Worlds and Code Geass. Like, everyone, more or less, is just able to throw their own ideas out there.
Okay. So, Al, I know you're gonna hate me for this.
Okay.
The World of the Worlds I'm familiar with is the early 2000s movie.
And that's perfectly okay.
Okay. So, basically, what I would use for this one is that basically, while Lelouch is dealing with his revolution, Britannia and Europe has suddenly gone dark. The royal family and their loyalist forces in Japan cannot hear from the rest of their forces back in Europe. They sent out a scouting party and found one of their cities vacant. Only thing there are clothes and a strange red liquid. And they continue to look around until they see one of the tripods staring menacingly at the Britannian soldiers before vaporizing them. I knew you would be happy about my suggestion, Ander.
In case y'all have not noticed, I have a raging hate boner for the Britannian Empire.
Notably the Code Geass version.
Well, of course.
You do know there's multiple different universes with Britannian empires that isn't just Code Geass, right?
Yeah, I know, but they're called the British Empire first. Britannian is just for a Latin version of Britain. Not in this case. Anytime I talk about Britannia, I'm talking about Code Geass's Britannia.
All right. So, I basically made my first premise of the story. Ander, you're up.
Alright, so if we're following the World of Worlds reason for why of the Martians are invading Earth, in all honesty, where they would drop off first, I really don't know. I think they would try and see exactly what the whole strength of one of the world's only superpowers is. So I think, in all honesty, they would actually drop into where literally the resistance would be the most at, which, ironically enough, would be Japan, Area 11. So in all honesty, we'd actually have a case where of literally Lelouch, aka Zero, is having to fight with his half-sister Cornelia and her troops in order to stave off an alien invasion that wants to kill all of mankind. And whether or not to beat them back is all up to them, because there's one other thing. Are aliens subjected to Geass? Who knows? Be interesting to find out.
All right, Al, you're up.
So, this is where I think a lot of people, and this is just me throwing this out there, because I do like the idea he presented. And of course, going off of the original reason why the Martians were leaving Mars. Again, pointing out, again, the War of the Worlds video game that basically talked about the reason. The resources are drying up. The council, a councilman was executed because it was against the idea of basically having to leave the planet. There's a lot there. But my thing, though, is that if this was to happen, I like the idea that was presented by Great Summoner, which of course was, yes, they would have Japan be the first landing site because, they'd be doing a probing attack. It wasn't until after that that they would start sending more cylinders around the world. Now, I'm not going to say that, nightmares are able to take on Martian fighting machines. Like, okay, yeah, I get that. But I would have an evolution of Martian technology, where at first it would be like the Jeff Wayne's version of the fighting machines. I would then evolve, because they're on Earth now, and they are literally not only, of course, taking raw DNA, aka blood, but also they are taking the materials there, like in the Great Martian War, where as soon as they started analyzing the machines themselves, it wasn't until they realized that post-landing, a lot of them was made from common material that was found on Earth. In my mind, that's what they're doing. They are evolving their fighting machines to where they can be more effective against nightmares. They're not going to make their own nightmares before anyone gets their hopes up. No. They are evolving the fighting machines to be kind of like the Goliath version or the Great Martian War version where they're larger and they have, like, basically, they still have heat rays, yes, but at the same time they'd be evolving the weaponry. Now, again, this is just my thought, the idea on it, but it would be a global conflict. They would be immune to Geass because, in my mind, I think Geass is a planetary, like, it's basically ingrained into the DNA where Geass does not affect the Martians at all because they have not evolved to it. So they have a natural immunity to it.
I mean, it's also the fact that Geass is given by the world of C, aka the collective unconsciousness of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And Martians aren't human. So yeah, technically they would actually have a very natural immunity to Geass, which would freak literally everyone with Geass out.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with the whole them adapting to the nightmares, they could actually make nightmare killer drones. Drones that are specialized in killing nightmares.
That would be,
They
in
don't
my
have to
opinion, the
be like
spiders.
nightmares themselves. All right.
Yeah, because if you don't know the spiders, in the Great Martian War, there are specialized drones known as the spiders that literally have ribbons. These metal tentacles that literally pierce, choke, break. Like, it is. They are horrifying as a enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you actually look them up, they are deadly. Like, dear God, they are deadly. Now, as for... Again, I think in my mind, the way the conflict would happen would be that they would do everything... Like, they would be throwing everything at the Martians to try and get them to basically do like the Great Martian War, where they would be at a stalemate, or at least attempt to keep them from advancing any further than they already have. In my mind, it would be a very interesting conflict because I want to, if I was writing this, I would have the idea of the immunity, not the, the whole thing about the common cold basically killing them after the solid week. No, I would go with, I'd go a little slower on that, where it's like, just like the Great Martian War that presented it, they don't find out about their weakened immunity until something happens, and they do test it. Now, whether this is, by coincidence, mistake, or what exactly, I haven't really decided yet, but I'd love to hear, people's thoughts on that. How long into the conflict would you want, and how much of land be lost? And basically, is the leadership dead? How much of the leadership has been destroyed? You get what I mean.
Yeah, because if they are smart and launch an attack on Britannia's capital of Pendragon, then technically, unless Charles is near a thought elevator, then technically he could escape. But if he's not, then, oh boy, well, it looks like literally almost all the royal family is gone in one fell swoop.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's
Almost all
bad.
the royal family.
That's bad considering that little crotch goblin VV is running around.
Yep.
And I just had an idea. What if they capture him, and since he can't die, what if they just routinely drain him of all his blood? Seriously, that is literally the best thing that humanity can do. They're like, wait, you want blood? Here, have our immortals. Wait, what? They can't die. You could drain them of all their blood and they'll just come back full of blood.
You can leave the rest of us alone.
Mm-hmm. The other thing about it, really, is that, again, continuing on with the conflict, I could see Japan basically be lost, more or less. Like, well, not really lost, more like everyone is fleeing, or at least the civil, like, it doesn't matter, it would be... Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that the War of the Worlds story itself, is and I've said this before, it is a story about basically no matter who you are, black, white, whatever, you literally are the same to a faceless invader who is essentially exterminating you and literally trying to wipe out your society. In this case, it would basically be they no longer are there is no Britannia, there is no numbers, there is no anything. It is we are humanity trying to survive. So in a way, I can see, like, the first couple weeks of the invasion, everyone would be like, no, everything's fine, everything's under control, everything is great. And it's like, Pendragon is lost, the EU is lost, like, a lot of, like, the only people I think would not be lost would be Cornelia and, of course, Zero with Nonali, who is, obviously evacuated. Again, it all comes down to how one would write this. Now, obviously, and this is kind of a big one, obviously when it's discovered exactly how weak their immune system is, that's when they start really looking at, because again, this is canon, bioweapons and chemical weapons are illegal and outlawed by the entire world. Like, everyone agrees, bioweapons, no go.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as they realize this, it's like, oh, we're not creating a bioweapon, we're trying to find the most effective virus we have that can literally kill these alien invaders. So again, it's not you people watching, you get what I'm trying to say.
And technically at this point in your hypothetical story, Al, technically Zero would have to join forces with Cornelia.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as they hate each other, they realize, hey, let's just put aside our differences for now, because we got aliens knocking at our front door.
Yeah, and he would obviously, because Zero Lelouch is known for his speeches, he could give a huge speech about, we're no longer this, we're no longer that, we are humanity. We are united as one against a common invader who wishes to wipe us out.
And he would also borrow the very end speech from Independence Day.
But as the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night, we will not vanish without a fight, we're going to live on, we're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Freaking copyright claimed. It's a good speech.
Really is.
Anyway. But yeah, no, like, again, it is the final fight, and this is something I think someone would have to do. The final conflict, the final, like, big battle would be basically they would launch a all-out assault to try and lure them in, while at the same time releasing the virus. And obviously all they'd have to do, just like in the actual, like, in the Great Martian War, they just have to wait. And as soon as the virus takes effect, and it does what it's designed to do, the Martian machines would fall, and humanity would slowly rebuild.
Mm-hmm. Now, at this point, whether Lelouch reveals his identity, because, as of right now, him, Cornelia, the Black Knights, and her troops are considered world heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it's really up to him whether or not he reveals his identity. In which he does, Cornelia, because this is before the Saz incident. This is before he accidentally Geass Euphemia into becoming the murder princess. Mm-hmm. So really, the only blood that Lelouch has on his hands from royals is Clovis's.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's really up to you. It's really up to the writer if they want Lelouch to reveal his identity and become the 99th Emperor, or if he wants Nunnally to become the 99th Empress.
I think the big thing would be that, and this is kind of a big one, is there is no more Britannian Empire. It is gone. It's basically the only thing left is basically ruins that they have to rebuild. So,
Which means technically the only holdings Britannia would have left after everything, which would be in North and South America. Because all the other areas at this time used the Martian War to rebel, which was fine because technically they had to pull troops from station in these areas to other points of the conflict. So literally the entire world is weakened, Britannia is weakened, and it all enters into a point of just rebuilding.
Yep.
And with the destruction of Pendragon, like 95% of all nobility is dead. The Emperor, like 90% of the royal family is dead. Really, all would depend on how someone writes it after that.
Yep, because they could have it to where the world rebuilds with Martian technology. They're now united as a species, and basically their one singular goal is to go to Mars, either to get payback or, again, anything at all. Like, again, it's one of those things of, even in the book, it has been always left open. So, yeah, just like with Goliath, you can, to the authors out there, you can literally design it however you want it to be. You want it to be open-ended and be vague, or do you want to have a set up for a continuation story? Like with the comics, again, it's just one of those. This is why I love War of the Worlds. They've always been so vague, yet so. What's the word? I'm looking for. Anyway. But yeah, no, that's basically how I would write a War of the Worlds Code Geass story. It'd just be a story kind of like the original book, where it's hopelessness, revelation, and then victory. Basically the whole kit and caboodle of War of the Worlds. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much for, of course, sticking around. But Ander, our friend, has a very interesting challenge for everyone.
Yes, and this is my challenge to all of you. Ever since... Well, I've always read Code Geass fanfictions on and off, but ever since... I don't know why, but I've gotten back into reading it, and I have perused the fanfiction archive on fanfiction.net for Code Geass stories, and I've only come across 3 the United States still exists in Code Geass. And I find that very upsetting. So this is my challenge to you. This could be done a multitude of ways. Either 1, you write a way for the United States to still exist in Code Geass. 2, another way is, have a self-insert or an OC character basically end up in the world of Code Geass and go about wrecking Charles, Mariana, and the Crotch Goblin VV's plans, but any way, shape, or form. You can do it any way you want. You can have basically, well, I have a couple ideas I'm keeping to myself, but you could have, like, literally the person appear, get a Geass, and then get a code, and have them literally be immortal from any point in time, and them literally being an eternal thorn in the side of Britannia. Or you could simply have someone from our world just, because literally of their low-level firewalls, literally have them hacked literally all over the world and just wreak havoc that way. So long as you basically can fuck up Charles, Mariana, and Vivi's plans in any way, shape, or form, have at it. I would really love to see more of the United States still exists in Code Geass. And to all those saying the world's better off without the United States, I present the Holy Britannian Empire as my counter-argument.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, me adding on to it, it could be, again, like what another author on Wattpad was doing. The United States could be experimenting with portal technology or, anything of that nature, and just literally open a portal into Code Geass and just look at it and be like, oh, this is not, this is not good. Again, it's however you can do it. Hell, even having a small territory of the United States, like Alaska or even Canada, popping up somehow. Again, it's up to you guys, the authors, and how you make it happen.
Okay, so here are my ideas. Number one, a Fallout crossover. We all know the lunatics in Big Mountain and their crazy inventions. What happens if one of these inventions sent the entire wasteland into the Code Geass?
The entirety of the wasteland?
More accurately, the population of the wasteland into Code Geass.
Okay, and where exactly would they appear at?
Just where they would be if they were still in the wasteland. Like, for instance, Lion's Brotherhood of Steel teleports to where Washington, D.C. would be, the Mojave. Mojave forces are teleported in the Mojave wasteland. Basically, everyone is sent into the middle of American control Britannia. The Britannians are confused. And as soon as somebody opens fire, you know for a fact that both the Brotherhood of Steel, the Legion, and the NCR are going to gun down any Britannian in their way.
That's if they're not run over and squished by nightmare frames.
I mean, we can always give the Brotherhood Liberty Prime.
Okay, just piggybacking off that to kind of help you out here, Crimson, because even I'm having a hard time with that one. I like the idea of, Fallout being transported to Code Geass, except instead of it being just the people, why not it be the landmass? Or at least, let me put it like this. California is removed, is basically replaced with, of course, the NCR.
All right.
You feeling me, Ander?
Yeah. In fact, why not
Britannia real quick just to see.
In fact, I even have an idea for that. Why not have literally California become the new Britannian Empire, and literally just because I can already see, because they're like, well, this is the homeland. Anyone that submits to us will be considered Britannians. So literally everyone like, well, okay, peace, security, fresh water, okay. Legion, you fools. Nightmare frame comes. I surrender. Sorry, no take backs.
Yeah, again, the idea is good, and I'll be honest, I kind of like the idea, but at the same time, instead of it being like, oh, don't get me wrong, I like the idea of, like, land masses being transported and replaced in another world. That's a cool idea and all, but you gotta explore a little bit more with it with the Big Mountain, when Big Mountain technology is involved, especially with, like, portals and teleportation. I mean, hell, the Boston wasteland, the entirety of Boston, or at least the Commonwealth, could basically be transported along with D.C. Fucking Chicago, with that Brotherhood of Steel chapter, basically transport as well. California, Mojave. Like, split, like, break up Britannia and have it be to where they are basically besieged on basically 3 ways. You got north, east, west.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a cool idea, and I do like it. But either way, though, we got off track. You
Yeah.
folks have heard the challenge. You know what to do. Again, just have fun with it, but do try to keep it a little bit War of the Worlds. I mean, it kind of depends on how you interpret it. Again, I've always interpreted it as, a stronger faction, basically ego-checking another until God's smallest little allies come in and be like, we're gonna make you very sick. But either way, though, anything else you guys want to add?
Well, there's one thing I want to add concerning my challenge. If you do decide to take up the challenge, please let either Al know or leave a message on this video letting us know, because I want to read your story. I want to see what you've done.
Thank you guys very much for watching. As always, I've been Airsoft Al.
I've been Anderfell.
I'm Crimson. Where's Sloth?
And we shall see all of you lovely people in the next video. If you want to help support the channel, consider donating to the PayPal down below. And, see y'all next time.
Goodbye.
Peace.